Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for September 11th. September 11th is the 254th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 255th in leap years, with 111 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is ground zero. Ground zero is a noun that means the point on land or water at which a nuclear bomb detonates, whether that bomb is in the air, on the ground, or under the water. Ground zero can also refer to the location of any disaster or violent assault. It also refers to the point at which something begins. Ground zero. Now, according to the chronology, this item should be last, but I want to go ahead and mention it now instead of finishing up with such a grim story. And that is that on September 11th, 2001, airplanes full of people crashed into two World Trade Center buildings in New York City, and then those buildings crumpled to the ground. Thousands of lives were lost. There was also an incident at the Pentagon, and yet a fourth plane whose evil mission was thwarted by its savvy and brave passengers. Everyone who was alive on that day and old enough to know what was going on certainly remembers where they were and what they were doing when they heard the news. A terrible and heartbreaking day, one which we haven't quite gotten over and probably never will. Now, on to the rest of history. On September 11, 1609, Henry Hudson discovered Manhattan Island and the indigenous people living there. On September 11, 1775, before he became a trader, Benedict Arnold left Cambridge, Massachusetts with a party of men on an expedition to invade British-held Quebec. Their route was up through Maine. Now bear in mind they were going through undeveloped wilderness. Also, when you look at a map, a trip up that way looks like it's about this far, but it's a lot farther than you think it will be. I'm sure it was even more so for them since they didn't even have any roads. As it turns out, their maps were inaccurate, which made things even worse. And finally, it's September. It gets cold pretty early up there. I wouldn't be surprised if they caught a little snow along the way. A good portion of the trip they attempted on waterways, traveling in rivers. Apparently their boats weren't that great. They had leaks. Water ruined their gunpowder and food. And then they encountered some whitewater passages in the rivers, and they certainly were not prepared for that. Almost half the men turned back, so that the 1,100 men Arnold started out with were 600 starving men by the time they got to Quebec. The siege of Quebec failed, but Benedict Arnold got a participation trophy for his efforts in the form of promotion to Brigadier General. Benedict Arnold. Alexander Hamilton was appointed the first United States Secretary of the Treasury on September 11, 1789. The Milwaukee Mile is a 1-mile oval racetrack at the State Fairgrounds in West Allis, Wisconsin, just outside of Milwaukee. It's the oldest major speedway in the world. The first race at the Milwaukee Mile was held on September 11, 1903. This is the birthday of William Sidney Porter, born September 11, 1862. Of difficult beginnings, he ended up in Texas as a teenager, met a girl, got married, had a child, the usual stuff. Along the way, he was accused and convicted of embezzling money from a bank where he had worked and ended up in jail over it. Got a 5-year sentence. And while he was in jail, maybe not that much to do, he started writing stories. Thinking that publishers wouldn't be interested in publishing anything from a jailbird, he sent his works to a friend who then sent them on to publishers under a pseudonym. By the time he was released early on good behavior, he had 14 published stories under his belt. We know him as O. Henry, author of such works as The Gift of the Magi and The Ransom of Red Chief. His stories are known for their surprise endings. Our beloved O. Henry may have had a drinking problem, though, which contributed to some serious health conditions, resulting in his early death in 1910 at the age of 47. O. Henry. This is the birthday of director, producer, and screenwriter Brian Depalma, born September 11th, 1940. Best known for his work in suspense, crime, and psychological thriller genres, his films include Carrie, Dress to Kill, Scarface, The Untouchables, Mission Impossible, and more. Happy birthday, Brian Depalma. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you learned something you didn't know before. I know I sure did. As always, links to my sources are included in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and feel free to share this video with the link in your email, messaging, or social media. And be on the lookout for my hashtag shorts. I'll take sections of this that will fit in a 1-minute section and put them into hashtag shorts. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. All right. Okay, for crying out loud. Good grief. All right, let's see here. Okay, do that again. We'll do that in a minute. That might not make it into the video, we'll see. Changing it up.